Thank you so much for joining me today, friend, for another response to the Godhead debate. Godhead, three persons, which was voted in 1980 in the Seventh Day Adventist Church. Before I share with you today's breakdown of response, I would like to invite you for a word of prayer. Our Father in heaven, may we honor you and give you honor and praise. May we give you glory and worship. I pray this in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen. So this is the fourth installment of my response to the video by Steve Wohlberg and Ivor Myers. I would like you to pay attention, friends, very, very closely. I will break it down very, very gently to the deception that has been spoken of in passing. If you are not paying attention, if you are not meticulous in your understanding what Steve Wohlberg is saying, you might be carried away to a misleading conclusion. So let us hope and pray that we can. There are many comments in this on the chats, but I would like to full screen and enlarge the screen for our so that our analysis will be clearer.
John, beginning, it has a middle, it has an end, and when you look at the whole book of John,
So it started out with John 17, verse 3, which he cannot find the three persons dogma, so he has to use the whole book of John, the Gospel of John.
it's clear what is the relationship of the Father and Son.
John 17:3 is so clear that there is Father, the only true God, and his Son, the one who was sent. They are not the same in being and person. They are the same in purpose. They are the same in their nature is divine. They are the same as Father and Son, divine, as me and my son are both human.
So let me just share a couple of verses on that. Go back.
So right now the audio is very slow again. He will say something here and he is trying to find another verse.
John chapter 1, verse 1.
I think we have already discussed this in part 3. I will move a little bit forward.
And the Word was with God. And then it says, and the Word was God. Now, the word God, when it says he was with God, the Greek word is theos. And then it says, and the word was God, that word is theos. And some people make a big issue of this, that the Father is the...
Well, the ton theon is the God, which is in the beginning was the word, and the word was with theon, the God. But they omitted the in the King James Version Bible. The God, meaning to say the established God, theon, and then theos, it's God. It's not with the article the.
He's the big theon, and Jesus is just a little theos. He's kind of a little God.
No, that's not true. That's the interpretation of Steve Wohlberg. That is not how the one true God see Jesus, a little God. No one in the movement sees that.
Yeah, or something that's not quite the theon. But the reality is that these are just two forms of the same word. And John 3:16 switches that. And so John 3:16 says, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son. And the word God there is theos, not theon. So you can't build a case that theon is a different kind of God from...
The difference between Jesus and God is that Jesus is the Son. God is the Father. That is clear in John 17:3, which he is stretching to make it appear that they are the same. God the Son, God the Son, and God the Father. That's what his point is. He wants to add God the Father is co-eternal, co-equal, co-creator of God the Son, meaning to say they are not really real son, but there are two gods that are in one God, or the three gods that are in one God paradigm. So that is what he's trying to stretch in John 17:3 using the whole John. And Ivor Myers just agreeing. So interchangeably, that's the word that he. So God and God the Father and God the Son could be interchangeably theos, ton theon. I want you to pay attention, friends, to the next few sentences that I would like to bring out to you. Why Steve Wohlberg is bringing us into heresy, but nobody is paying attention.
Different form, slightly different form.
He is confusing the form of theos and theon, when in fact it's clear the divine nature of Jesus is the same as the divine nature of his Father, because he came from the divine nature of his Father. But their personality could not be the same. It's the Father and the Son. The Father first, the Son came forth, begotten from the bosom of the Father.
So this verse at the beginning of John is basically saying that the Word was with God, and the Word is the same kind of God. He is.
So if you think about it closely, deeply, so there are two gods he's trying to say, but he will switch it, because if he will be worshiping two gods, that's idolatry technically. So he will not accept it. So what he will do, he will interchange as though it is a mode. Modalism is heresy. In his statement, I will show you what modalism sounds like.
And the verse 10 reveals that all things were made by him. He's the maker of heaven and earth, not just.
So now Jesus is the maker, interchanging it with our thought, interchanging it. So Jesus is not just the Son, he's the maker through and by and for. That is true if you will understand that there is a Father who spoke to his Son, let us make man in our image. My Son, let us make man in our image. And who created, who executed? It's Jesus. But who was the source? Who was the mastermind, so to speak? The Father. He said, let us make man. It's not Jesus who is the mastermind. It was Jesus who listened as a son to the Father saying, Jesus, my Son, let us make man in our image. It could not be interchangeable, that Jesus is just the maker and the Father is gone. The Father is there. He's the source. Jesus executed. He's the executor of the Godhead.
Through him, but by him. And we go back to Genesis, where Genesis 1, verse 26 says, God said, let us make man in our image.
Ellen G. White is very clear on that, the Father and the Son. The third created being who wanted to be a part of the council was Lucifer.
Some people think that the Father made the world only through the Son.
That is the truth. The Father made the world through the Son. That's Colossians 1. That is the truth. Please don't escape that thought. He is trying to undermine that truth by countering it with his interpretation. He's undermined the truth. That was the truth. He will just say, oh, some believe that the Father created through his... That is the absolute truth. Spirit of Prophecy, Volume 1, pages 24-25. That's the absolute truth in Ellen G. White's writing. That's the absolute truth in Paul's writing, Colossians 1. God made all things through his Son. His Son is the executor, not someone else. His Son, Jesus Christ. So listen how he tried to undermine it, to make it appear that is wrong in his statement, in his language, in his tone. Oh, that is wrong. That is not the truth. This is the truth. Listen.
The Father said to the Son, let us make man in our image. So they both co-created.
They both co-created. That could be a confusing term.
In their image. It wasn't just the Father's image, it was the image of the Father and the Son. So here's another text in the book of John, in chapter 8. Jesus was dialoguing with a group of Jewish leaders.
I want you to pay attention here, friends, because there is this heretical statement that if you are not going to pay attention closely, you will be carried away.
Verse 56, Jesus said, "Your father Abraham rejoiced to see my day and saw it and was glad." Then the Jews said to him, "You are not yet 50 years old, and have you seen Abraham?" And then verse 58, Jesus said to them, "Truly, truly, this is the truth." He said it twice. "Truly, truly, I say to you, before Abraham was, I am." So he's
Before Abraham was, Jesus said, I am. That does not mean he is not the son. He is the son when he declared, I am. Like, I am. Even though I'm a father, I'm a son of my own father. You see, friends, he wants you to he wants to plant in your mind that the I am is the true God. Jesus is the true God. When Jesus said in John 17:3, Jesus said his Father is the true God. Switching, interchanging the roles. Very subtle.
himself to these words, I am. That's
I am does not change his being a true literal son of God.
now they knew what he meant. They knew exactly what he meant because
Now he said the Pharisees, the Jews who hear Jesus in John 8, knew exactly what he meant. The Jews know the Messiah, that it's not God who came there because no man had seen God at any time, John 1:18, and live. No one can see God except the Messiah of God, the Christ of God. Who is the Christ of God? His son. The Jewish leaders, listen to Jesus, knew that the son is coming, but they will not accept Jesus as the son of God. That's the issue. Hold on to that thought, and that's biblical. You can read it in the Gospel of John. But listen to how he will switch it.
right after that, verse 59 says they took a stone to cast at him.
So they tried to they took a stone to hurl to Jesus. That's the context here.
Their minds,
Steve Wohlberg saying, using the Pharisees, who knows the Messiah of God to come, but they will not accept Jesus as the Messiah because he is a son of a carpenter. They're expecting a mighty prince, a mighty conqueror. So they know that Jesus is the son, but watch and wait and hear what Steve Wohlberg has to say. This is the gray of heresy.
it's interesting, but I thought about this. In their minds,
It's interesting. I thought about this. So this is his imagination. This is his speculation.
let's say that many of them in Judaism were part of the one true Godhead.
Okay. You could say many of them, or all of the Jewish people believe in the one true God, but they deny the Son of God to be Jesus. They believe that the Son of God is the Messiah, but they're not waiting for the son of carpenter, Jesus, to be accepted. They're waiting for a mighty general, a mighty prince. We know that. That's clear. But the sonship of God in the minds of the Jews is clear. He said, oh, some Jews are one true. What do you mean, some Jews? All the Jews are one true God believers. Monotheism. You're a Jew. You know that. But he's trying to water it down. You see how subtle the explanation? If you're not paying attention, you don't know what's happening, you have no background, you don't know what's the pros and the cons, you don't know what's their argument, you don't know what's the other side, then you are lost. You're just following a blind preacher or blind leader. So here we go. So the Jews, all of them believe that there's one God and they're waiting for the Messiah, but it's not Jesus, the son of God, the son of Joseph and Mary. They want the Son of God, who is the Prince, conqueror, prince of mighty prince. And so that is the problem of the Jews. They are prejudiced because Jesus was a lowly, humble origin.
And when Jesus said, I am, they said, you cannot be that God.
Oh, so in the interpretation of Steve Wohlberg, this is the heresy. He is narrating to us that the Jewish saying, You cannot be that God. No, 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 no. That's not what the Jews are thinking. You cannot be the Messiah. You cannot be the Son of God because no man can see God at any time. God the Father did not come down on earth. It was his divine Son that come on earth. Somebody is in the throne in heaven. You see now, friends, you heard how Steve Wohlberg injected lies and deception. Let me emphasize again. He was narrating about the Jewish. So we believe that Jewish are one true God believers, all of them. But they believe also that the Son of God is the Messiah, but not Jesus. They don't want to accept Jesus. That is clear. That is established in history. The Jews believe that God the Father is still in heaven. They're waiting for the Son of God to come. And the Son of God has already come in Jesus, in the form of Jesus, human, fully divine. That is clear. They rejected Jesus. But Steve Wohlberg has another narration. The Jewish listeners of Jesus in John chapter 8, remember the context that he's saying is John 8, when he said, before Abraham was, I am. He said that, oh, the Jewish people were picking up stones because they think that God, they cannot accept that Jesus is that God who came down. That is false. That is not in the minds of the Jewish people in the narration of Steve Wohlberg. You see now, friends? That's my argument. Why is he paraphrasing the Jewish people, the Jewish thought, when he was not there, and he handled that story in a different light? So, meaning to say, the Jewish were waiting for God to come down? No, they're not waiting for God the Father to come down. They waited for the Messiah, the Christ of God, the Son of God. That's the Messiah in Psalm. The Son of God. That's the prophecy of Isaiah and all the prophets, the Son of God. But they cannot accept Jesus as the Son of God. But they're waiting for the Son of God. They're not waiting for God himself. But Steve Wohlberg falsely narrated the Jewish thought. And that is, I want you to study that part. That's heresy. That is in the court proceeding. That is leading statements, false or pseudo leading statements, to make the jurors or to make us listeners think that, oh, I see, the Jews were waiting for God himself. So Jesus is that God himself, but they rejected that God himself. No, they rejected the Son of God literally, not God himself. They believe in God, one God. They're all true God, one true God believers. They were non-Trinitarians. We will continue this attempt next time. So now you know the lies and pretensions of Steve Wohlberg. He's trying to put us in his narrative that, oh, the Jewish were waiting for God. No, the Jews were waiting for the Son, the literal. Do you know why Jesus was crucified? Because he claims to be the Son of God. The Jewish leaders did not say, are you God? No. Are you the Son of God? This is the mistake of Steve Wohlberg. May God our Father bless you and his Son be gracious to you now and forevermore.